Hello, everyone. This is Blanca, and welcome to Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. I'm very excited to introduce to you my good friend, Ainsworth Kaminsky. Ainsworth happens to be a plant lover who loves finding ways to bring the magic of Mother Earth to his fellow human family collective. He is a lead formulator and creator, as well as grower at the Holistic Wellness Farm based in Washington. With that, I would like to introduce you to Ainsworth so he can tell us a little bit more about his healing modalities with mushrooms and other plant-based medicines. Ainsworth, away.
Hello there. Great to see you today, Blanca.
Thank you.
The company's actually Science Under Nature.
Oh.
And I'll get into really quick the fact that I don't even want to call it a company, all right? It's our family. And that's the same way that we look at all of our customers and fellow humans on this planet. As you said, we are up here in Washington, Snohomish, Washington, to be exact. We have a beautiful little farm up here. I've been raised in Washington the majority of my life, other than a 10-year stint down in Los Angeles, and which actually led me, at the end of that, led me back into the path that I am currently on right now with, as you would say, plant medicines and working with Mother Earth, specifically instead of my history and the stage and acting and music for most of my life as an artist. So it's been very conducive to come back home and be able to reconnect with the community here. I really love this beautiful little town. This year, going to start building out specifically our Ayurvedic and TCM gardens. I've been growing our food forest and planting as many herbs as I possibly could that I've had, brought in about 80 different plants, well, seeds from around the globe, even stuff at lower equatorial ranges. So once we have our greenhouse this year, then I can actually grow some of those, because it does get a little cold up here. We've been growing cannabis and hemp for about 5 years. I've been growing since I was 21, so quite a while. I've been off and on for about 20 years now. And we help a lot of people in the local area find answers for that which ails them. We're all family here, so it's up to us to take care of each other, support and look out for one another, and listen as much as we can to one another.
Thank you for that. Ainsworth, I'm really excited to have you here today because I, like many, are not very knowledgeable about plant-based medicine. And one thing that really caught my attention when I met you at a health and wellness event several months ago was just everything that you do, from formulating medicinal mushrooms to educating individuals about their healing properties. So if you can take us down that path about what you do exactly with mushrooms and how they help people, that would be great.
Sure. So medicinal mushrooms, it's probably one of the things we're most well known for, obviously, other than the hemp side of things. And with the medicinal mushrooms, that I kind of tipped off what got me into this realm. And that is the fact that my dad, when I came back home, my biological dad told me that he had prostate cancer, stage 2, which ended up turning into stage 4 within a month because they gave him a fantastic biopsy. Might want to question and think about those before you get those. He got it, just really quick, he got that from Agent Orange, is what we think. So it was a cascade effect of many other organs having issues, his heart, pig valve. He had a kidney issue as well at one point. And I was able to drop everything. And I wanted to work on this new path with helping people. What I can say is that within 6 months, it had been remediated. And he was on his way to great health with the thanks of reishi mushrooms. So the night before my dad told me that he had prostate cancer, he finally decided to tell me, even though he'd had it for a bit. I had found out about one of the answers for what he was going to be going through. We worked with that and also colloidal silver and high pH water. High pH water is so good for the body. Obviously, clean water is so good for the body. And within 6 months, my dad was free and clear. It was beautiful to go on this journey. I'd already been in this realm a little bit, as I've always been into natural alternatives ever since I was a child, raised on a farm with growing a lot of our own plants. and animals. So I've always been very much a naturalist. And if you can find answers to that which ails you and choose a better path, it will be much more holistic for you. Obviously, we all have to enjoy life a little bit. Yeah, so my dad is still alive. It's 9 years later. And it was a really beautiful experience for me to go through. Most people that are in this realm, unless they went into school for it, for just because they like the path, right? There's probably a lot more of that coming on right now, or if their parents were in it. Most people that are in the realm of caring for others with supplements and nutrients and holistic health and food and such usually have something that has happened to them themselves. Thankfully, it wasn't something that I had to endure myself, but obviously with my father, thankfully also I've always been extraordinarily healthy. I'll really have to use a lot of our supplements for the specific purpose. However, I do take our medicinal mushrooms, right? If that's the conversation we're having right now, on the daily, right? If I'm in a lab and I have the ability to make so many different formulas, and there's always leftover. Me and Stretch, my lab tech, took a huge shot of lion's mane yesterday because after filling bottles, we had some extra, but it wasn't enough to fill bottles, right? So it's really cool to have so many different opportunities. And yes, I have jars and jars in my kitchen upstairs, powders and herbs and spices and such, so I can mix and match all the time. And I don't think I've ever said this, but if you're into this realm, if you have the ability to bring in different things that you've acquired over the years and just continue taking things if you find them healthy for you, continue taking things off and on. One of the things that I always preface when talking about supplements, unless otherwise suggested by a healthcare practitioner, specifically, in the Western medicine, is to always cycle off things every about 4 months, 3 to 4 months, just to give your body a break. Unless you're dealing with some serious health issues, which means you may need to actually continue on those for a little bit longer. But medicinal mushrooms are really amazing. I have a feeling that we probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for mushrooms in general. If bees weren't here and mushrooms weren't here, I really don't think this ecosystem would be so robust and beautiful. And I like to say that we probably only know about 10% of what Mother Nature actually has to share with us. Because even when dancing into the herbal realm and checking out different alkaloids, constituents, and doing the research that everybody does, we're only oftentimes looking at what we know from past research, how certain things affect the body. And then on top of that, looking for, say, reishi mushrooms for certain types of cancers. Well, why would this help just that area? I find it very interesting that I've got lists and lists. This is how I work with a lot of people. I've got lists and lists of all different types of crazy ailments and issues and chronic syndromes that people share with me, stuff I've never heard, probably monthly. And because I do research with all the herbs and formulas and stuff that we work with, I'm able to bring up all kinds of new connections that I had never heard about. And I have a feeling if other health areas, health departments and organizations did that, they would find so many connections that we have no clue about. And Mother Nature is just waiting to open her beautiful arms and welcome us back into connecting with her, because we are so far off track right now. So mushrooms, there's a lot of really amazing mushrooms out there. One of the main mushroom formulas that we really work with is our new Seven Secrets mushroom. And it's got a really great collaboration. I'm actually going to adjust it again when I have more production continuation of certain types of mushrooms. A mushroom on its own is amazing as a regenerative, nutrient that may help pre and probiotically. Most medicinal mushrooms are adaptogens. Many other herbs in the plant kingdom are adaptogens. Cannabis isn't mentioned as it, but anything that works on so many different levels is in the realm of an adaptogen. And so even culinary mushrooms, what an adaptogen is it helps regulate the immune system and under stressors. So if there is high heat, very cold, underslept, not eating right, overworked, more stress at work, any of these different factors, adaptogens come in and they help uh, calm the system or enliven the system to work better with all these outside forces. So the mushrooms that we currently work with, turkey tail, lion's mane, chaga, uh, cordyceps, of course, reishi, and there's about 5 different types of reishi, medicinal reishi mushrooms up here that we can access just in Washington. It's really neat. A lot of the mushrooms, anybody that's a forager or outdoorsy person, a lot of these mushrooms actually grow in the certain latitudes around the world in the same in different areas, but on that same line. So we had earlier kind of tipped on the psychedelic mushrooms. There's all different types that grow up and down the world, different latitudes, but most of them grow in warmer climates. So with these medicinal mushrooms up here, we wild forage our turkey tail, or our friends forage for us, turkey tail and our reishi. And I'm still sourcing other connections. I grew some psychedelic mushrooms way back in my 20s. So I've had some experience with those, growing those, and a lot of them grow very similarly. But some, like chaga, I don't know if anybody's been able to stabilize that culture and actually grow it on something. It grows on birch trees, and it's a fungus that actually eats away at the tree. And it's, as far as I know, we get stuff from Alaska, and it's not, you have to harvest it responsibly, as far as I know, because you can't grow it. We'll see. I'm sure that'll change at some point. But there's a lot of affinity between different mushrooms and different types of trees. Usually they grow on dead wood. A lot of the medicinal ones grow on dead wood. The lion's mane, I would harvest up here. We just don't have enough. It's not a consistent production outside in this area. And so it's harder to access a good amount of supplementation. We have a great culinary organic farm out of BC that we get stuff from, and beautiful stuff. So yeah, medicinal mushrooms are amazing. Uh, I would suggest anybody that's healthy to do more research on them, and anyone else that has any possible issues. We don't even understand how deeply mushrooms can actually help the system turn things on and turn things off in a beneficial way. The cool thing with medicinal mushrooms is that they do, as far as research goes, they do very little harm, if at all, to the body. And that's an amazing thing to be able to say about anything, because we work with so many different herbs, from andrographis and rhodiola, St. John's wort, chamomile, lots of 5 different types of artemisias. And some of these things, when you take too much of them, they can dilute the system, turn the system on too much. They can change the system if you're not careful with it. But that's the same thing with anything, right? You drink too much even good water and you can drown, right? So too much sleep is bad for us. Not enough is bad for us. It's about finding that balance, finding that homeostasis. And that's the wonderful thing about medicinal mushrooms, is they really do help balance us out in so many amazing ways. I mean, we work with a lot of people, and that 7 Secrets that I showed you is probably one of our most popular. And it's really cool to, share some things. I know you're healthy. I know you don't got pain, but things that are anti-inflammatory. It's really fun to share this with different people and watch those that are healthy find amazing benefits, right? You start sleeping better, your inflammation goes down from working the body out and tearing muscles and cells and regrowing things, scar tissue. And then those that are seriously unhealthy, watching amazing results within months. Very, very cool. And that all started when my dad shared that with me, and I was able to see the capabilities. And one of the other neat things that I got to see during my dad's path, on the way back, from the hospital. So he's a vet, obviously. And the VA calls. And you can hear the woman on the phone say, have you been changing anything with your protocols? Have you started taking any other herbal supplements? My dad lies because he'd been taking reishi mushrooms. And she goes on to say, well, it looks like your blood, I think it's the antigens, but blood, and essentially the blood was thinner than it needed to be because they had him on warfarin, a blood thinner. It's actually, oh, sorry, it's a little higher. It's a little thinner than we want it to be. So we're going to actually start tapering you off or lowering the dose of your warfarin. I don't know how much he takes now at this point, 8 years later. If you don't, I've got to say this. When you're unhealthy, if you do not continue, not forever, but knowing that the unhealthy state is here and you will be moving towards a healthy state, when you get those really great results, you don't stop. Continue moving past that for a little while, right? You lose the weight, whatever it is, don't stop. Continue going. Your body has to reset. Your body the cells have to learn a new experience. They need to new coding, a new direction. And if we just stop once we think we're healthy, we're not resurfacing these cells, training these cells to be in this new enlivened version of ourselves, right? We just got healthy, right? Let's get healthier. But it was really, really cool to see reishi work at such an amazing level.
Can I ask you something about that? Okay, so I am a novice in this area, which is why I was so excited to have you here. I first started hearing of medicinal mushrooms when someone in the mental health space was talking about psilocybins, and I honestly really don't understand or know that realm. So when we talk about medicinal mushrooms, hallucinogenic mushrooms, psilocybins, are they all in the same family, so to speak? The only thing I know of mushrooms are the ones I get at the grocery store, culinary mushrooms. And I do trail run in the mountains. I sometimes see mushrooms, and because I don't have formal training as a mushroom forager, I leave them where they are in case they're poisonous mushrooms. But so walk me down that path. Are they different kinds of mushrooms? And I'm very interested with what you also said about Vietnam vets and Agent Orange and trauma and all that aspect also, and how medicinal mushrooms help for that. Can you walk us down that path?
The mushroom realm, fungus, is gigantic, and there's fungus. There are microfunguses, which would be more of like a mycotoxins, and there's one or more other types. But in this family, there are, like, cordyceps is a really interesting one because it actually needs a host to grow on. It grows off of insects. There's thousands of different types. I guess each type of insect actually has its specific type of parasitic fungus that ends up growing on it. So you've got the medicinal mushrooms that mainly grow, the more well-known ones that mainly grow on rotting or dying wood. And then you've got psychedelic mushrooms, which there has to be something said as well. So psychedelic and like with cannabis, we say that CBD doesn't work on the brain. But the fact is, almost everything works on the body and the brain. And it's just at what level, right? Is there an intoxicating factor, right? With hemp, there's not really any intoxicating factor, if ever, but with THC, high THC, there is. So with psychedelic mushrooms, and this is kind of how I look at it. I like to look at lion's mane as a really good example. So if we're talking about psychedelic mushrooms, psychotropic, they work on the brain, they open the mind, they dump dopamine, they work with serotonin, they change the way the brain chemistry works. So lion's mane has many similar actions so psychedelic mushrooms are known for psilocybin, cubenzes, different types. Up here we have our blue ringers, liberty caps, cyanescens, azarescens are one of the strongest mushrooms in the world that only grow in Astoria, Oregon. So there are many types that just grow in our area, let alone all over the world. And with psychedelic mushrooms and lion's mane, they both have nerve growth factor. So NGF, it's going to help the body regrow nerves, which obviously is going to help proliferate and help almost anything in the body. So I like to look at lion's mane, very similar to hemp, as psychedelic psilocybin mushrooms are to high THC marijuana, as they call it. So by working with something like hemp or lion's mane, you're going to get a lot of the other effects without the psychedelic uh, effects on the brain, even though it's going to work on the brain. So you're not going to have any intoxicating effects, but with lion's mane and CBD, actually, they go both really well together because they both hit similar realms in the brain for people that have extreme anxiety, depression. And if it can work on these experiences that are less than lovely that we're having, but at the same time, not get us intoxicated, that's a great thing. So there's amazing beneficial reasons for taking and working with a psychedelic mushroom. All right, this has been around for a long time. Every culture, nearly every culture on the planet has stone statues or wall paintings. You know, this is not something new to us. And so we really have to, you know, if you've never worked in this realm, do a little research and think clearly without talking heads that have told us certain things in our minds or scary stories that possibly might have been blown out of proportion or propagandized and has many stigmas, to be able to look at the plant kingdom and mushrooms and say, how has this been worked with historically? Our societies are very different today, obviously, a lot more free for all, and everything's accessible to you. So it's not this reverence that we're missing, this connection that all ancient cultures have had, nearly all, I hope, have had to the land, right? That respect, that connection, that timing as well, right? We've got everything's, you know, put into a nice little package these days, and we want pills in our hands so we don't have to think about it. So the connection that we have to going out and wild foraging our own medicinal mushrooms or growing our own hemp, we're missing this connection. And so I think that's why we hear, you know, kids get addicted or have bad experiences when they're younger. You know, it's probably smart to wait till you're in your 20s to start experience with anything that's going to be seriously mind altering. It's just amazing what these things can achieve for us. And psychedelic mushrooms are here to evolve the world. If you listen to MAPS and many other organizations out there, psychedelic organizations that are really working on the legislation right now, it's beautiful to see the therapeutic purposes really starting to come to the forefront right now. To be able to take a vet that has PTSD and therapy and psychological evaluation that could go on for years, and in possibly 1 to 2 settings have life-changing results that bring that person down to a baseline where they are able to interact with their family better, interact with the world. They're not so jumpy. They start feeling like themselves again. There's something miraculous there. And we need to pay a lot more attention to that instead of just listening to what somebody else or some newspaper, media, magazine might have said because that person had a bad experience with one of their loved ones or heard a story as well, right? This is the other thing we have to be very, very careful about opinions and what it is we're being told. Make sure that we think for ourselves. One of the most important things we can do, period, is to think for ourselves. And does that feel good? Does that not? Where did I hear that? Because psychedelic mushrooms are changing the world, and obviously there's many other plant medicines out there talking about ayahuasca and ibogaine. Cannabis is a plant medicine as well. There's so many other things that are starting to come to the forefront right now when utilized properly with care in the right settings. They can really change a lot of people's lives in days, if not weeks. You know, there's a lot of people talking about the depression aspect with microdosing mushrooms. Imagine being able to take a substance that is psychedelic, but not experiencing any of the effects of that. And at such a small, quantifiable level, that it ends up acting more like a vitamin. And that's the realm that we're starting to get into with all the nutraceutical companies and biotech. I mean, the mushroom wave is coming right now. The green rush already happened with cannabis, and now we've got medicinal mushrooms. You know, when you have families, and a soccer mom has a little mushroom growing box on their counter now because you can buy it off of Amazon or Facebook. It's really exciting to see the world that we're stepping into. So there are plenty of bad that goes with the good. And I always like to say that we're going through humanity's growing pains right now, because we have to go through a lot of what does not serve us to realize what does and what we actually want and deserve as this one human race on this planet.
Yeah, Asmith, I just really appreciate you for the work you're doing. I personally have belonged in that camp where I bought into the programming, the storylines. It's like, oh, don't look at that. That's bad. You know, where it was very black and white. That's good. That's bad. And I always put mushrooms in that camp of it's bad. And, you know, of late, I just got to thinking, you know, that's all programming. I have talked to so many friends that have vets in their family, many with PTSD. Many, unfortunately, of their loved ones did commit suicide because they were not getting the help they needed. Other friends I've talked to said, well, you know, the difference that it made in their depression and their PTSD. And so I just want to be more open-minded to realize that, yes, the stories we've been told are not necessarily the stories we should believe. We should question for ourselves. And my goal with this platform is just number one, to educate myself on the things that I'm interested in. Because if I'm interested, I know other people out there are. So thank you for helping educate me. And I applaud you for doing work that I feel is pioneering. You are the first person I've ever really met that works with medicinal mushrooms. So I'm very excited to have you in my tribe of friends. And
Definitely.
yeah, and so for, I guess, individuals out there that maybe have not delved into any kind of plant medicine, that are questioning what kind of, I guess, advice, tool, or strategy would you recommend to them to just help them improve their own health?
Well, without even getting into the mushroom aspect, we'll get into that really quick. I'll keep this succinct. Obviously, better sleep. Obviously, eating healthier. You still got to enjoy life a little bit, right? But we know what's healthy and what's not. If you can, grow as much of your own food as possible, because even stuff that you grow, there's plenty of things coming down from the sky and the water. Unless you live in a pristine area away from society, it's almost impossible to get stuff that doesn't have issues with them. Uh, clean water, good diet, good sleep are always number one, right? For all the supplements and nutrients and herbs and things that I can help people with, and any of us can have access to and work with other people. If you're not doing those steps, if you're not actually changing, you know, not smoking less, stopping smoking, if you drink a lot, stopping drinking, you know, our body is very tuned in, and our mind is sometimes tuned out, but our body tells us very rapidly when something is not working. So once you get those things done, all right, or on that path to having better habits, especially dopamine detoxes, which I think all of us need right now, then getting into some medicinal mushrooms. If you want to try starting with something like reishi mushrooms or lion's mane, lion's mane is definitely the most popular one. I would say lion's mane is the most popular. Why? Because it's probably the most fast acting and recognizable. We have people that at conventions have before taken a pump. So we put our big bottles of mushrooms. Obviously, we got smaller stuff here, and then we have bigger stuff for people when they're dealing with serious issues, or we bring stuff into the coffee and drink realm as well, industry. And we would have people that would take one pump from that, and if they were sensitive enough or their body really needed it, some people notice a change immediately. I've watched people's eyes light up. If not that, then I would tell people, hey, take a shot, walk around, check out the other booths for a good half an hour, and come back and tell us what you think. don't buy something yet. I want you to know how it feels.
Mhm.
And so lion's mane works so rapidly on the brain. It works on the gut, which is also our second brain. Now we know this is a mesentery, is what it's called. I've seen it work for skin issues and brain, skin, gut, and also the nervous system. For neuralgia and other disconnected miscommunication. How I kind of look at the realm, this whole health realm, is just a lot of miscommunications that end up breaking down and happening in the body. Cordyceps is another really great one as well. That one is pretty fast acting. It helps the lungs and can also increase energy. And then, yeah, you've got sun mushrooms, agaricus, plenty of different types of rishis. All the rishis are actually really good. If Fungi, organenses, Ampelonata, there's plenty of others out there. And they all have really good benefits. The main constituents in mushrooms are going to be that people are touting or going after are alpha and beta glucans, which are polysaccharides, triterpenes, and then each mushroom, not all of them, but many of the mushrooms have their own specific types of chemicals, hericenones. Um, it's really a very big, beautiful world, and we haven't even found all the mushrooms that we can begin working with. My suggestion, if somebody hasn't begun working with mushrooms yet, I keep on hearing people getting turned on to, I'm not going to mention brands, but there's many brands out there that are making coffee drinks, and I'm not saying anything good or bad about them. Not about the brands at all. I don't really know. But just looking at the specific application of the type or way of ingestion, I've heard of many people saying that something worked for maybe a minute, which oftentimes things can be placebo because we want something to work, or we've heard good information from somebody else, or they're noticing something, but it's not that pronounced. And one of the keys here is in a powder form, unless a company is actually spray drying their mushrooms, which you can spray dry different supplements, and it makes it so that it's water soluble and more activated, quickly activated in the body. There is something called chitin in mushrooms, and chitin, chitin, is this mass of material that also bug exoskeletons are made out of. And our digestion system doesn't really have the ability to break this down. Not to say that eating mushrooms and powdered mushrooms does not increase bioavailable fiber. There is an access point there that can be beneficial or negative depending on what somebody's dealing with there. However, thinking about taking in a bunch of capsules, which I'm going to say it again, the world we've created, people don't want to think for themselves. They don't want to learn, oftentimes, sadly. They want the doctor to say, take this pill and you'll be better. Well, when you do that, oftentimes there's many other issues that end up coming along with that simple little pill. With powders, since there's that chitin aspect, not only is it not extracted, it's just compressed, right? So you're getting only a more concentrated amount of the actual mushroom material, but we can't digest all of that. And think about that with an extraction. When you're actually extracting the mushroom, it becomes 10, 20, 100 times more concentrated. So in a little dropper, you might be getting a quarter of a bottle, half of a bottle of pills. And I say this because we've seen amazing results. We've seen amazing tests. I've read the literature, the NCBI studies. And when they're testing things at the government and pharmaceutical level, they're almost always testing extracts. It's a rarity that they're using powder forms. They'll use those for specific purposes to test out the efficacy of that. However, to get to the point of this thought is if you have the ability to work with medicinal mushrooms, you want to try something, sure, grab a mushroom if it tastes good to you. Get some pills if you got them. If there's a pill in your cabinet that you haven't tried in a while, try them again, right? Mushrooms actually stay good for quite a long time as long as they've been filtered right. If they're an extract in powder form, they stay good for a really long time as long as they stay dry. Try them. However, if you have the ability to access a liquid form of almost anything, I would say that if you can get the liquid form of almost anything herbal wise, water, or often we do a water and alcohol extract. Most most mushroom companies do. They do an extract. So it's that too. You're pulling out the triterpenes and the polysaccharides that are dissolvable and different. The second it hits your mouth, it's beginning to absorb. And lion's mane, if you want to get it to the brain, why would you want to have it go through the stomach unless you want to get it to the stomach too, which you do. But you want to get it to the brain usually. That's the main reason that people use lion's mane, is for the neurological benefits. So yeah, if you can get out there and get some mushrooms, it's amazing. We do have all of our mushrooms on our website right now. All of our mushrooms are up there, and everything works really, really well as well.
Asmith, so much great content there and information. I would love to do deeper dives on so many of the topics that just got mentioned today. I would definitely love to have you back. Are there any final words you'd like to say before we end our little chat today?
It's always a really good question, isn't it?
Yes.
I think that I want to end every podcast or interview with this way. Of course, I could promote the website and social media and anything else we're doing. But the one thing that I want to promote 24/7 is if we can all start realizing that we are all only one race on this planet, one great, big, beautiful family, especially when you go look back into your family tree and lineages and where that breaks off and how close we actually all are, going back into history. I would highly suggest that all of our family starts looking at one another as we are family, right? It changes our reactions. Somebody that cuts you off on the freeway could be your aunt, your brother, your sister, your mother. You don't know who they are. You don't know what kind of day they're having. And yeah, there's some nasty, confused souls out there on the planet right now. Don't get me wrong. I've dug down almost every rabbit hole out there. I just love the fact that once we get it, once we realize we're all here to collectively, cohesively create this beautiful reality, and we're all one family, everything begins to fall into place, and our lives become more abundant, and we start loving more, start loving ourselves more, supporting each other more. And the supplements are just fun at that point, because healing happens immediately when we reach those levels.
Thank you so much, Asmith. This is Blanca with Your Health is Your Greatest Wealth. Thank you everyone for joining us for another episode. And I will be including Asmith's website at the bottom of this YouTube channel so you can find out more about him and his products. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Asmith.